thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us.
Other working class
Candace,
people.
Candace.
Get off the field.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, you guys. It is Thursday, January 15th. It's already 2 weeks into the first month of the year, you guys. And today, Stone, it's National Bagel Day, Stone.
Bagels?
Yeah, bagels.
Bagel. I'm down with the bagel.
Yeah, a little cream cheese, a little chives, a little, you know what I'm saying?
Cheese.
Yeah.
Throw some salmon on there. What?
What do you think, Nate?
I don't feel the salmon. Everything else, though, pile it on. You ever have lemon pepper with your lemon pepper on your bagels?
I like the ones that are
level.
lemon pepper bagels.
I'm shocked by this. You're gonna eliminate salmon. You're gonna eliminate bagel and lox, and you're putting lemon pepper on it.
I'm not a full blown Jew, guys. I'm just Jewish, you know. So
Hey, are you also Jewish?
Oh,
I'm
man.
also a half breed.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Oh, that's
I
fine.
like my bagel and lox. I like my tomato on it. I like the whole thing. I love a lot of the schmear. We'll go all the way in.
The schmear.
schmear?
I love how you put the H in
We
there.
love the good schmear.
No, I'm from the East Coast. I have to hide it on a daily basis. So no, I know what you're talking about all too well.
Mm.
I really cannot help it. It comes out no matter what. It's you're either gonna get my Mexicanness or my Jewish New York.
What?
Well, it's also today is National Pooch Day, which I think is the most retardedest name ever.
What?
I don't know.
What?
You guys are going to know as soon as I say it. They're trying to sound cool. They're talking about kombucha. Okay. National Pooch Day. You see, exactly, Stone. It's so retards. Retards.
Oh,
Wait, I can't say the F word, but you can say the R word.
100% I can. I'm disabled.
I heard the R word was back. It was a memo came out. Everybody said the R word was back.
Yeah, our word is
I'm not
100%
using
back.
it.
We're making retards great again.
Whoa.
Yep.
Jason likes the back seat in the short bus.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. Just don't be a window licker, Stone.
No licking the window.
No licking the windows.
Yeah.
No.
Or your eyebrows.
Yep. It's also National Strawberry Ice Cream Day today, you guys.
Okay.
Yep.
Not a fan. Strawberry ice cream?
You don't like strawberry ice cream?
I
Really?
don't hate it, but I don't really like it.
Oh, bro, it's like
You're a chocoholic, dude.
it's like
Give me
second
some
best to vanilla.
I mean,
it
if
gets
you
the
have
least scoops in the Neapolitan, it gets the least amount of scoops.
No. You can't have it in Neapolitan because isn't this that artificial strawberry? You have to get like the real strawberry ice cream with like real strawberries in there, bro. Yeah, the artificial strawberry. I agree with you, Stone. It's not the business. They don't. Yeah.
It can be better.
It's like the
There's
difference.
a lot of better ice creams.
Stone is like the difference between THC and Marinol. You know what I'm saying? It's just not the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though.
Or
Yeah.
kissing your sister, right?
Oh,
Stay
whoa!
away from the
Easy there,
Marinol
Dale.
Neapolitan.
Easy there, Dale. Easy there, Dale. That was a Texas joke right there, Stone. It's also.
That's like Virginia, Tennessee, Alabama.
that's more Appalachia. That ain't Texas.
Oh man, it's also get to know your customers day today, you guys.
I thought you were gonna say cousin.
Oh, stop it. Stop
Hey, you
it.
guys are on the gutter today.
Stop it.
Get to know your customers. That's a good one. Everybody should. I think that's sorely missing in our industry is the assumption of what the customer wants and not the actual knowledge of what the customer wants.
Oh man, you know, sometimes customers have to be told what they want because they don't know the difference.
Sometimes education is important, but I think the consumers know what they want. They just need you to have the right product for it.
That was a great spin right there.
Not develop bullshit
Shaun,
and
I like that
chirp
spin.
it up, try to pretend that it's something that it isn't.
Mm-hmm. And since today is Know Your Customers Day, I am going to encourage everyone to make a super chat of telling us something that we don't know about you in there, and we will read those super chats live during the show if you guys happen to want to participate in that. So then that way we can get to know you better as our profiles in the chat. And I knew you would do that, something like that.
I would like it.
And it's also, Stone, Nate is the only one that got the memo today. Nate is the only one. It's National Hat Day, Stone. Where's your count? She did?
She did.
You should always listen to your wife, Stone. She's smarter than you. Yeah.
Well, I have to get my hair cut, so I couldn't put stuff in my hair. And she was like, wear a hat. I was like, I don't do that any day. But if I knew it was friggin' National Hat Day.
It's National Hat Day, Stone. Maybe at a commercial break, you can go and grab your hat. Yeah.
I'll go grab one, man. In the commercial break.
Well, anyways, thank you all.
Get my haircut too, Stone. So you and I will be in sync for this next month or so.
Yes. Nice. And anyways, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.high9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. And we are going to actually, Gabriel, we're going to switch this off. We're going to go to Miss Shaun Salvaje first. We're going to roll right into Miss Shaun Salvaje. She's going to get to open up the show today. She's a mom. She's a veteran. She's also from the great red state of Texas in the bluest lagoon in Austin. That's right. It is none other than Miss Shaun Salvaje.
Yes, I am from that Blue Lagoon, and we'll see about how long Texas stays pure red. We know we're pretty mixed up over here.
You're gonna stay red. You're gonna stay red.
I got a headline. The headline is a little bit misleading because this is not exclusively what this case is about. And so before everyone gets crazy, headline says it's from Kara News, the NPR news for Texas, or so they claim. Delta 8 goes in front of Texas Supreme Court justices to decide if state agency can criminalize it. This is from KERA. What does that mean? Well, yesterday we talked about this a little bit. We had a Supreme Court hearing while we were on during the show, and listened to that hearing. It was about 40 minutes. They only had the oral arguments for the case to be heard, and no decision, no final ruling. We might have misstated that in the comments yesterday, but or misunderstood it. The Texas Supreme Court justices will decide whether a public health department has the authority to effectively criminalize a chemical compound found in cannabis, which retailers argue could hurt the state's multi-billion-dollar hemp industry. So I do want to say, while the headline says this is about Delta 8, what this is really about is hemp-derived, natural versus synthetic, and then really with the Sky Marketing, for those who aren't familiar with this case, that's Hometown Hero. What they're really arguing is it's also about the dishes who is making rules right now for cannabis, overstepping their legal authority in part of their rulemaking processes, not in this current session, but in previous sessions when they tried to redefine what would constitute THC hemp, or hemp derived from THC, or THC derived from hemp. The oral courts heard, the court heard oral arguments Wednesday in a case that could revive a 2021 notice from the Texas Department of State Health Services, DSHS, classifying Delta 8, an intoxicating compound found in the hemp plant milder than Delta 9, as an illegal substance, even after federal law legalized its sale. Texas's hemp program has never been a legally permissible vehicle for the proliferation of synthetic and intoxicating forms of THC, argued Corey Scanlon with the Texas Attorney General's office representing DSHS. The legislature delegated final authority to the Commissioner of State Health Services to decide whether the Texas schedules of controlled substances must comply with federal changes. The 2018 U.S. Farm Bill redefined hemp and removed cannabis products with less than 0.3% Delta-9 THC from the federal Schedule 1. Texas adopted the federal definitions this next year with its own 2019 Texas Farm Bill, which y'all have heard me talk about a lot, where they did essentially kind of legalize THC in a way, as long as it met that 0.3% Delta-9 threshold, very specific molecule. The Drug Enforcement Administration changed its regulations in 2020, however, to comply with the Farm Bill, but DSHS, under former Commissioner John Hellerstedt, objected to and refused to enforce the DEA's new rule. DSHS then issued notice on its website in 2021 classifying any amount of Delta-8 THC and any amount of Delta-9 over 0.3 as Schedule 1. So they made other cannabinoids Schedule 1 substances. And that's what this case is about. Do they have the authority to do that? Effectively making all of the cannabinoids, or at least now, illegal. So Schedule 1 substances are defined at the federal and state level as drugs with no accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse, and possessing or distributing them has criminal consequences. Sky Marketing Corp., doing business as Austin-based hemp retailer Hometown Hero, as most of us know them, and other retailers sued DSHS to prevent this rule change from going into effect. And that's what's been holding up our market. We've had a temporary injunction on this. The company alleges DSHS acted outside of its authority when it reclassified hemp products and didn't follow the proper rulemaking procedures under the Texas Administrative Procedure Act, or APA. Sky Marketing also alleges enforcing the rule would unlawfully make the production of, manufacturing, sale, and use of all hemp products illegal in the state. Because of the new clarification of definition. The state dishes is claiming this was only a clarification. Sky Marketing, Hometown Hero, is asserting, no. This was not a clarification. You completely tried to redefine and add new substances to the schedule, and you don't have the authority to do that. This is a very important case for Texas law, not just as far as it relates to cannabinoids, but in general, agency overreach. Reputations were... So the attorney for Hometown Hero, Amanda Taylor, and other hemp retailers who have banded together in this lawsuit, told justices that the plaintiffs fear criminal prosecution, civil enforcement, and financial loss. And I'm going to break this all down to you because I listened to the oral arguments and we have all of their different contentions. And I also have the questions that the judges were especially focused on. So we can narrow in on what does this look like as we are currently in the middle of a rulemaking process with dishes following Governor Abbott's veto of any kind of hemp ban and his institution of Executive Order GA56, which asked dishes to make regulations, not to ban. Some of the proposals that are set forth currently are a de facto ban at that point. No, Mitch McConnell wanting to define it at 0.4% and that trickling down to other states. We'll see. So Amanda Taylor, the attorney for Sky Marketing and the hemp retailers, says that the businesses immediately after the website rule was announced began to suffer economic impacts. So they're claiming that there was financial harm. They were about to have to lay off staff. Reputations were put into question, and they are now being asked if they are illegal producers and sellers instead of viable licensed operators that dishes had previously approved. Taylor argues that dishes can't classify THC as a controlled substance when the legislature has decided that it's not. Justice Evan Young wondered if the separation of powers needs to be clearer. That's the question, the justice says, isn't it? Whether or not this is really in excess of authority. Young says, I'm wondering if what that really is signaling is in this area, we're going to be super clear before we, the legislature, are going to directly interfere with this. But DSHS, Attorney Scanlon, argued that DSHS is acting well within their authority, and of course, that they would. What the vendors did here was they wanted to get legal cover. They wanted to enjoin a rule to say this is what the law is, and you are wrong on the law. The legislature has said that the commissioner gets to make this determination regarding controlled substances unless altered by them, and until that decision is final. The state argues that DSHS isn't posing any criminal or civil enforcement threat to hemp retailers, like revoking hemp sellers' licenses. Scanlon also says that DSHS has always considered THC, my bad, I added the A in there, THC a controlled substance. And 2021 website notice was just a clarification of existing law. This is really important because basically what the state is saying is that they didn't overstep, they only clarified. And what Hometown Hero and the hemp retailers are arguing, that isn't, no. The law is very clearly defined in very specific sections. And what the attorneys were arguing were that there were certain sections of the bill and the rulemaking that were executed under Section G. And under Section G, if the state dishes what Section G is, where the state says we're going to not follow the federal guidelines for this. And so we do have here in Texas this section that says we will not be following federal guidelines. We will institute our own guidelines. Whatever is instituted in our own guidelines is covered by Section B. Section B is in an area of the law that stipulates the specific processes that need to happen for the state of Texas to, or dishes, not because you still have the legislature acting on behalf of the state, but for dishes in a rulemaking process to be able to add substances to the control list once they're deleted. The legislature has already said they can't do that. They can't add it back to the list if the legislature has deleted it. And through the legal definition of the 0.3%, they feel that is clearly defined, and that dishes had then added molecules to the controlled substances list. And that would have fall not under Section G, their authority under Section G, but under Section B, the rules for Section B, which have a whole process. There's public comment process. It's a whole thing. And so this case is really going to hinge on a couple of things. First, I highly recommend dive into the article because they did a really good job going through the case history and illustrating how we got here. And I think what's important is let's take a look at what the judges are really focused on. So here are the questions that they looked at: is who enforces and how? They did ask Hometown Hero if any enforcement actions had been taken by Dishes, but Dishes wouldn't be that kind of enforcing agency. So part of the question is whether or not this specific agency takes the action. Is the harm still something that can be argued in this case, or would this case need to be filed against a different agency? At least as far as the respect for pocketbook injury. And Dale can expand on this because he's our attorney, on deck. And I'm not. I'm a mediator and a policy advisor, so I can dig in there. But when it comes to playing attorney games, I still got, a couple years of law school I would have to take. Standing pocketbook injury means, did it financially harm them? And there is evidence to show that. We're seeing it right now with Just Dishes, those headlines that came out this past week. Even though those headlines were about a week late, a lot of them that you're seeing right now talk about Texas proposing to ban hemp flower. Those probably should have come out about a month ago. Now they're coming out because Dishes is having the rulemaking conversations. But if those headlines would have come out a month ago, then we would be having a deeper news conversation in mainstream media about what is actually happening in the rulemaking process. So, and what we're seeing, at least on the ground, is when these headlines come out, even if they are behind the process or not all the way up to speed, they can cause financial harm. I'm not sure how you would litigate that, because you could sue the newspaper outlets, but that doesn't make a lot of sense, and that's not really who you're going after. The state making these blanket announcements or these blanket decisions or these clarifications that are really substantial changes to the rules under which operators are licensed, which is limited exclusively to the power of the executive branch and the legislature. And that was also another question that came up: is Dishes is an arm of the executive branch, and Governor Abbott just vetoed a hemp ban. Some of the judges were asking if Dishes might not want to reconsider their position overall on scheduling. However, what happens in the future, or Dishes argued, yes, that's yet to be determined, still yet to be decided. And they were leaning in on the hemp ban federally being effective in November 26, ignoring the fact that this is still up in air and nothing's been solidified. stated that that would be irrelevant to this present issue, but I'm sure that these things will have impacts. So it's really, we'll see how this plays out. Hearing didn't go bad for the cannabis industry by any means. The judges were asking really important questions to try to figure out, one, is this the appropriate agency to be suing? Two, did this agency overstep its actual authority in creating new controlled substances or adding new substances to the list when they were deleted by the 2019 Farm Bill, which defines hemp as anything below 0.3% Delta 9 dry weight, anything. And they specifically cover in that legislature, in that document and in the consumable hemp program, they cover synthesizing molecules, converting molecules, and the whole manufacturing process specifically for consumable hemp. One thing that I noticed the dishes attorney was really leaning on was definitions of hemp as it relates to agriculture, completely ignoring the fact that these rules were made specifically for consumable hemp products, not for whole stock plant. So we'll see what happens. They were questioning, and the judges had a lot of questions for both sides. It didn't feel aggressive in either direction, and that's a good thing. They're judges. They should have a level of impartiality and trying to discern what the law says and then applying that. But we'll see, because it's anybody's game here in Texas, and it can be a lot of political grandstanding, and sometimes our PR and our politics definitely bleed into our judiciary. I think the Supreme Court is taking it pretty seriously, though, and they're not leaning in either direction, especially considering the questions they had regarding federal rescheduling and, just how much sense does this make to litigate and go through a decision-making process on this when we know this is still up in the air, is still being debated, not just in Texas, but also on a federal level. So, and they did mention rescheduling, had questions about that. Next steps are going to be they're going to present their thoughts and findings, and we'll see more about what comes up on this hearing. But I know retailers in Texas are really starting to feel the pinch, or they're starting to be concerned about what these final rules look like. From my perspective, I do think that dishes, at least on that rulemaking side, from what I saw at the hearing, not this court hearing. When you go to a court hearing, you're there to argue and fight. You're not there to, build bridges. At the hearing, the rulemaking hearing last week, though, it did seem that they were open to feedback. They do recognize that $20,000 fees are going to result in no market at all. So whatever million that they were hoping to capture, 200 million that they were hoping to capture through fees, they realize that is all gone if they mess this up too much. I do think that this case, it's important that we hear it now, and it could set important precedent for this rulemaking process. But we are still in a space, at least for the next 2 weeks, where we're not 100% sure about what is going to happen with Texas flower. Let's just hope we can find some way to get an extension on anything if there's something prohibitive, until we can have deeper conversations on both the state and federal level, because there's no sense in making some kind of final decision when we know that this is any man's game in 2026, especially politically. I'm going to bring it back to the team. I would definitely dive into that article if I were you and I'm an operator in Texas. She did a great job just breaking down the facts. The hearing is available online. There is a second version of it. A lot of folks received a 2-hour version of it. Search it up on Texas Supreme Court, or we can provide the link. I'll share the link in the comments on this episode. But there is a 48-minute version that is just this case. There were 2 cases that were heard yesterday. The full 2 hours is not just for cannabis. So I will link the 48 minutes. You can hear the judges ask their questions themselves. I think everybody's interested in figuring this out, but, I've been surprised before. So I'm going to toss it back to the team.
Oh, yeah. Man, Stone, this is your state. Are you guys going to be doing some dishes pretty soon? Sounds like someone needs to wash the dishes. Maybe Hometown Hero should get some, put their gloves on and tell Mod that they soaked in it.
Oh, I hate people calling it dishes. Just fucking say the letters. Jesus Christ. Love Hometown Hero. Love him. Love Lucas Gilkey. Really wish that Hometown Hero had sold flour, because they're gonna need someone like him in their corner. Yeah, it is what it is, man. Keep up the good fight, Lucas.
But this is the thing. Well, Dale, how do they get around changing these definitions around like that?
Well, I think it's a problem. And let me just back up to the 30,000-foot view. The federal government has Commerce Clause of power, but they've split power with the states. They allow the states to do what they want to do here. Not necessarily what they want to do, but within the grants of legality from the federal system, they can make it more restrictive under state power. Now, but what we deal with here are what we call enabling statutes. The legislature will pass a law, which then the executive branch can go through administrative procedures to enact regulations. And they publish, they have comment period, and then they come up with the regulations. But if your authority is to do X and you go X plus in what you do, then you can run to court and say they only had authority to do X. They're beyond X. That's what it sounds like we're dealing with here. I haven't read the state enabling statute. Okay? And that's where you start, because we had these battles in California in 2008. Okay? And they came out of San Diego normal versus, the city of San Diego. And they tried to go to federal law, and the judge said, no, we live in the state of California. We're using our own police powers to do what we want to do. So let's get beyond the federal question here and take a look at this particular issue of the Administrative Procedures Act and how far you can go in the executive branch and where you're limited.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the battle is. And when you run into court for injunctions, especially temporary injunctions, you've got to show that the likelihood is you're going to prevail. Granted, the court agreed that you're probably going to win here because they're probably over the line a little bit, and that there's going to be irreparable harm. And just to be clear, money is not irreparable harm, because they can award you money to make up for it. There's other things, loss of reputation, perhaps loss of business, perhaps an arrest, perhaps a loss of your permit. Those are not financial. Those are beyond financial. So the court will step in to hold things in place until we figure this out. And the other question is standing. Which of these agencies did this? Because if Department of Health Services did it, and you go through the Department of Agriculture, it's like, hey, dude, I file a motion to dismiss because we're the wrong people here. We should not be here. That's another one of those fact-specific questions. It's going to
Dale, you hit it. You hit it. That is actually what they're really leaning on. That's a big pillar of their argument, is that they don't have, Sky has no standing. And I don't know how that will hold up, though.
Well, my crystal ball isn't that good. And even when I do say something, the Cassandra effect kicks in. It's like, even if I'm right, people don't believe you if it's not what they want to hear. Okay. But from a strictly legal standpoint, and I don't practice in Texas, so I can't tell you what their decisions are about how far administrative agencies can go before they're stopped, because that's an important clarification. Every state has the equivalent of an Administrative Procedures Act, which is part of the executive branch. And we split judicial, executive, and legislative into three different parts. So if the legislature says the executive has power to do X and the executive does X plus, and you go in and say you went beyond your authority. And this is not just a state question. This is happening at the federal level all over the place right now. So these issues are not just hemp issues or cannabis issues. They're bigger issues about separation of power. And the legislature should be able to give directions to these agencies, and the agencies follow them. When you go rogue, somebody should step in and say, nah, you're too far over the head of your surfboard here, dude. We're going to pull you back in.
Fair enough. Hold on, Shaun, because we gotta move on. We're way over time on this story, but I do want to read it. One comment in the chat who says, who's from Thomas Cross, who says, try caring more about the plant than kissing your favorite politician's backside. Yeah.
Okay. I hear
Quick, Shaun,
that.
quick,
And to that
quick.
comment, there's just one question. If this does come, the judges did bring up that dishes is a part of the executive branch, and Governor Abbott is the executive of the executive branch, and he vetoed a ban. So any rules that create a de facto ban are subject to question. And the counter to the standing argument is the ultra vires argument, which is that they exceeded their authority. We'll see which one hits hardest, but I hear you. We got to move on.
I know which one is going to hit the hardest, but nonetheless,
We'll
we're going to
see.
roll to our first commercial and we're going to be right back.
Straight right.
Yeah. It's addressed. And we're back. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure. Oh, wait. No, sorry. Not that part. Sorry. Sorry, Stone. But nonetheless, there's some GOP senators who file an amendment to block Trump from rescheduling marijuana. 2 Republican senators have filed an amendment that seeks to block the Justice Department from carrying out President Donald J. Trump's executive order to quickly finish the process of reclassifying cannabis under federal law. Senator Ted Budd, a Republican from North Carolina, and James Lankford, a Republican from Oklahoma, are seeking to attach the proposal to fiscal year 2026 funding legislation for DOJ that is on the Senate floor this week. In a quote, "None of these funds made available by this division may be used to transfer marijuana as defined in Section 102 of the Controlled Substances Act from Schedule 1 of Section 202C of that Act, 21 U.S.C. 8112C, to another schedule of that section," the amendment says. But similar cannabis prohibition language had advanced through the House Appropriations Committee before being removed from a bicameral spending legislation deal negotiated by leaders from both chambers, and that legislation passed the House last week. Now, the 2 GOP senators are seeking to reinstate the prohibition on marijuana rescheduling into the bill before it clears their chamber. In a quote, "You have always been a role model for America's youth, telling young people for years that they should never do drugs," the House members wrote. "We hope that you consider the harms of marijuana rescheduling and continue sending that strong message of hope to the next generation." And those senators are referring to President Donald J. Trump. But Trump ultimately dismissed the concerns of the GOP lawmakers who oppose marijuana rescheduling when asked about the letters, pointing out that overwhelming majority of Americans support reform and that cannabis can help people, including his personal friends who are suffering from serious health issues. GOP senators previously tried to block the administration from rescheduling cannabis as part of a standalone bill filed in 2023, but that proposal did not receive a hearing or a vote. And separately, a coalition of Republican state attorney generals criticized Trump's rescheduling decision, saying cannabis is properly classified as a Schedule I drug with no accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse. And meanwhile, last week, the Drug Enforcement Administration, better known as the DEA, said that a marijuana rescheduling appeal process remains pending, despite Trump's executive order. Well, look at this. We got these rhinos trying to go against Trump and his agenda. And I'll tell you what, if you are in any of these states and you are voting for these guys, I have to question your common sense. And I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Well, I told you guys there was going to be opposition coming from all sorts of places.
Oh, you did.
These guys have an extreme bias and an emotional belief system. Don't give me facts like, oh, we have acceptable medical use. Oh, I can't hear that, you know? Or like a high potential for abuse. It's right up there with caffeine. Stop it. Okay? They don't want to hear that stuff. And it's just, it's another part of the complication here. I mean, honestly, I wish Trump had the power to just sign an executive order and it's done. But they set up a process. He's in the process. And as it's moving forward, all the weak-kneed pants pissers from both parties are going to jump up and scream and yell, we don't want this going forward.
Yep.
Okay. There's been a process in place for 55 years to change this. And nobody gave a shit about MDMA going there, or, and no one cared.
Mm-hmm.
Now that it's weed, it's like, oh, their butt puckers up. Oh my God, think about the kids.
Yeah.
Shut up. Stop it. These are ignorant rhinos, okay? Because they have, their mama told them it's bad, and by God, it's bad. I'm not going to let it happen, no matter what the facts might be. Just get out of here. Stop it.
Just kick rocks, right?
I can't believe with all the things they could grow some balls and go against Trump on. This is the one that they chose.
Exactly, bro.
Draw the line.
I mean, in all fairness, there's not much to go against Trump on.
Stop it. Get at it.
But
we don't even need to go there. That's not on topic.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think that's actually indicative. I think that's indicative. I think it's the one thing that they can kick a fuss about and make it look like to their local constituents that they're actually standing up against, but they know very well that there's already a plan or some kind of decision for this, because let's be frank, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Mm-hmm.
This administration doesn't turn a cheek or blind eye to billion-dollar anything.
That's right. So we're all about those bees,
this is
baby.
the only place where they can try to stick their flag and claim it without taking too much damage, because they probably know this has already been decided. And most of the people who voted with Mitch McConnell, what Rand Paul revealed on that interview the other day was that he had given them money early on, so they owed him favors.
Yep.
This is how decisions are being made. And that's why, situations like what we just discussed are really still up in the air, because even though you know what's right and you know what's wrong, it doesn't mean that's what's going to be executed or what will be implemented. Like, it doesn't mean that you won't be subject to consequences if they decide it isn't going to land in your favor. So I think it's fun to laugh at, but it is still pretty serious.
Well, ultimately, I don't think it's gonna go anywhere. These people are just, they're doing what they're gonna do. The bill is already passed the House without this type of an inclusion in there, and so therefore their only way to possibly even get it included is to get it in the Senate version, and then hope that it could stay in there through the ratification process. And that's not going to happen. These guys, it's just more political kabuki theater. But I do like the fact that these people are showing themselves, just like I liked that vote last night where JD Vance had to come in and do the tiebreaker, because it's showing who the true rhinos are in the Senate, and those people need to get the hell out of there. That's all I have to say on that. Did you see how I did that? How I didn't make it? I made it political, but not political, but made it political. Did you catch that, Stone? Yeah, I think I did that for you, buddy. I did that for you. Yep. But on that, I guess we're going to keep this train rolling because we are a little behind schedule. We're going to roll right into attorney at law, Mr. Dale Schafer. And Dale has been an attorney since the Reagan administration. He has represented physicians, hospitals, insurance companies, cops, corrections officers, and for the last 25 years, he has specialized in cannabis law. He served a 5-year federal prison sentence for helping medical marijuana patients and managed to save his law license. But he is blunt. He doesn't smoke them because they're ratchet, they're nasty, and like Stone doesn't even smoke that shit. But he is honest, and he's unconcerned with public opinions, your opinions, and he will show you how he can defy gravity like a superhero by pissing up a rope. That's right. It is your favorite Tio Loco. And you can find him at his own law office, at the law office of none other than Dale Schafer.
Good morning, everybody. Tio Loco, Jason's favorite.
Yeah.
Here we go. Okay, my article today comes out of Marijuana Moment from yesterday. Tom Engel wrote it, and the headline was New Jersey marijuana businesses could engage in interstate commerce under Senate President's new bill. This comes out of New Jersey, where they're proposing a bill to allow interstate compacts with marijuana. Okay. So as I read this, it's the words they use in there are just to try to get a headline, because this is not going anywhere. And California, Oregon, and Washington did the same thing. But when you read the language, it's like we put contingencies in there, like I put in contracts. If this happens, boom, or if that happens, it's not going to go forward. This is not going to go forward unless Congress does something. Okay, so let's take a look at why that's important, because we do have this Constitution, this document that keeps getting in the way of people wanting to do what they want to do. And under the Constitution, federal government is granted certain power, and the states are prohibited from exercising certain powers. And everything that's not on that list belongs to the states. That's the 10th Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when you take a look at the Constitution, Article 1, which is congressional power, Section 10, Clause 3 says, no state shall, without the consent of Congress, enter into any agreement or compact with another state. Okay? So if we're talking about clarity, it's like, bitch, read the Constitution. I didn't drop an F-bomb there because I wanted to.
Yeah, thank you, Dale.
The Constitution that says you can't do this, okay? So you can pass whatever performative law you want, but without the consent of Congress, it's worthless as tits on a bull, okay? And so when you take a look what California did, they said, we'll do this unless the feds act or our attorney general decides that the political damage or potential problems is low. And Rob Bontas, our AG, his butt puckered right up and goes, oh no, we're not going to do this because we're afraid the feds are going to come in and enforce. Oh yeah, they will. If you try to make an agreement with New York to ship all the stuff that's going by the black market, UPS legally, they're going to come in and start arresting people. Okay. So this is performative. I don't know who it's supposed to be performing for, but when the Constitution says you cannot do this, and someone proposes a law in the legislature that we're going to do it anyway, like this is the argument people have about Trump exceeding his executive power. Same argument. Okay? If it says you can't do it, it says you can't do it. Oh, I'm going to keep this short because this is a joke. It really is a joke. I don't know who they're writing this shit for, but to me, it's like, nah, if you try to do this, someone will drag your ass into federal court and they will get an injunction. Okay. And if you violate the injunction, you might see the inside of a cell with a spork and some of them crazy orange shoes. I'm going to throw it back at you guys for your comment.
Dale, I have a question. Who told them that they could do this? What was there a governmental branch that told them that they could do this?
Well, I'd have to dig into it and find out. People feel entitled to do all kinds of things. It's part of our nature.
Well,
I thought of it. It must be okay to do until someone kicks your ass and says no.
Well, my thought is just, it's New Jersey currently is a Democratic state, unfortunately. But, we also have like Kentucky where, is under a Democratic governor's reign currently. And he was telling patients to go and purchase weed outside of the state and bring it back, which is also against federal law. And so I'm just wondering if some Democrat politician thinks that they're above the law also, because they commonly do, and has said that, hey, you know what, you guys will be able to do this, and you know what, just sell it to the bodegas in New York because there's no tracking going on in there anyway. So, anything's possible.
Well, what I've noticed is that we have an extreme lack of respect for the law in this country on both sides of the aisle. Okay. And we have these Constitution and we have laws, and if they're clearly written, people go, oh, well, that's kind of just a suggestion. I don't want to do that. The speed limit in front of the school is 25, but I got to hurry. I'm going to do 50. No, not everything is within your legal power to do. And we have some of these same problems that are happening with the demonstrations going on right now. Just as an example, people think that I can call a cop any name I want, which you can, but you can't throw a piece of ice at him. Okay. Can't block the road. And, and it's like, well, my mama never stopped me. Well, too bad, because I know some guys that'll stick a jackboot right up your ass. You don't pay attention to this stuff. And then they're just, oh, I'm shocked. I'm surprised. No, give me your license and registration. I don't have to. Well, okay. Take a second look. We do not have respect for law and order. And frankly, it goes back to passing too goddamn many laws. I mean, I've been a lawyer for like almost 40 years now. And there's no lawyer I know that even understands all the laws out there. We violate them all the time because we don't know what the hell we're doing. There's so damn many of them, and no one is accountable. And they grab you and do something to you just because I got a hair up my ass. I don't like you. No. We need to get back to respect for law and order because it's clear and people know what the law is and they respect it. We don't have it right now.
That's right. It's so true. Stone.
I can't help but notice it wouldn't be an issue if we just went the hemp route. Like, this is why going that route becomes such a slippery slope, because there are already so many arbitrary rules that you would have to undo or figure out. And then as far as it was funny, it was interesting. Yes, Dale. Certain law enforcement agencies do have jurisdiction to ask you certain questions, and some are not law enforcement officers or agencies. They were civil paper pushers, and they don't have certain authority over all of the citizens and civilians of the United States. And we have to respect the law while also, if you are a part of the law, staying in your lane. You cannot exceed your authority because it becomes litigious. And that's why we have people who don't, we make too many laws, and then how do we actually enforce them? You have to litigate it. So we're not a law. It doesn't feel like we're a country of laws. It doesn't feel like law and order. It feels like he who has the power and the purse makes the law, because only they have the right to enforce it. Today, we like to do our days. Today is expungement day for me, but that took 3 years. It would have took $10,000, and it took an attorney, and I was innocent. And that's the craziest part. That's the craziest part. And it took all of that. If I didn't have any of that, I could still be in the system. I could still be in jail. Let's be real. So I hear you. And this is why it's important to understand what we're doing. And also, we had other opportunities. We maybe need to reframe this for legislators and operators as a redefinition of hemp under the umbrella of cannabis, and then doing something for medical marijuana. I don't know, but we need to figure something else out, because this is only going to continue with ambiguity.
Well, I just might point out that we have so many petulant children in this country who are adults, okay? And they think that whenever someone with official authority asks them to do something, they don't have to do it, okay? No, that's not how it works. When you get in front of a judge, the judge can go, oh, well, they didn't have the authority to do that. You don't get to make that decision in the moment without consequences. And it's a problem. And I'm not pointing my finger at anybody, but I've represented enough cops to know that when you approach somebody and they start off by telling you to go F yourself, or you can't touch me, can't do anything to me. My response, I worked in an emergency room. They'd bring them in. You ask them what happened. Well, they fell down because they failed the attitude test. Now, is that right? No. Is it real? It sure as hell is. And until we get a little more respect for the laws that we want to be in place, then being a petulant child is just going to get you arrested and maybe beat up, maybe some bear spray in your face. I don't like it, but it's the reality that we're dealing with right now. And, legislators are no different. They think they can do whatever the hell they want to do. And the answer is no, you can't.
I think there's you got no petulant children, but at the same time, leadership that deserves to be respected, and respect that is earned. Like when when I was overseas in Afghanistan, you could have civilians walking up to you with an AK-47. You could not turn your weapon and fire on them. They had to engage you first. Those are the rules of combat and the laws of war. If we can't have that for our own civilians, we have a bigger issue. And I really would love to see leadership that has earned respect, that actually cares about the country and is putting it first, not private interests. It goes both ways.
Yeah. Well, wish in one hand and shit in the other, and see which one fills up first.
The leadership should first. But yeah, this is living in this world. Nate, you got something happy for us, or at least your soothing baritone voice or something?
I'm here for all of the science talk and stuff like that. If there was anything to weigh upon socially, unfortunately,
there is.
I feel like you guys kind of painted the goalposts pretty well, and now reality gets to exist everywhere inside, and there's a shadow of that, which is what we actually are dealing with and how things should be. No, I mean, honestly, the notion of regulation, I think, in synthesizing both yours and Dale's points, overregulation is a son of a, and I can see with all too much clarity and listening others as a third party discuss what essentially are the results of overregulation. I can see with all too much clarity the desire, at least, of, I'd like to say need, but maybe that's an ego thought, the desire to hit a massive reset button on all this shit, you know? That's just it.
Yep, fair enough. Well, on that, we're going to roll into our next two commercials, and these commercials are currently being aired on Fox News, Stone, and they're great. I hope you're going to love them, Stone.
Rescheduling cannabis, which was classified as more dangerous than fentanyl. Trump's action will destroy the cartel's illicit black market, expand medical research, and ensure seniors and veterans safely receive the care they need. Thank President Trump for delivering on another America First promise.
And we're back. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. And all the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.high9news.com.
Under President Trump, America is back. Trump's delivered the largest tax cut in history, putting more money in our pockets and restored America's economic dominance. Promises made, promises kept. Now it's time to fulfill another promise from President Trump and reschedule cannabis, which supports over 400,000 jobs and creates billions of dollars in economic growth. Reschedule cannabis and stack another win, Mr. President. America First Agriculture Action, Inc. is responsible for the contents of this advertising.
We are back, you guys, and we are back, and we're going to roll right in to Mr. Stone Slade, the man who has decided to participate in National Hat Day, even though he's in the great red state of Texas and he didn't put on a cowboy hat, which is a big disgrace to the Texas narrative. It is none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Stone Slade.
Thank you, Jason.
Yes.
Damn, I grabbed the wrong hat.
It's all right, bro. It's all right. It's all right.
All right. Let's talk about Texas medical cannabis. Finally poised to boom, but the real fight isn't over cannabis, it's over control. Most of the pieces are finally in place for Texas's medical cannabis program to grow in a real meaningful way. Expanded qualifying conditions, higher THC limits, not high enough, but we're getting there. More licenses, new product formats, national operators paying attention for the first time. But as momentum builds, a familiar pattern is emerging, and it looks a lot like legislation Texans already rejected. The proposed hemp rules now circulating through Texas agencies are not happening in a vacuum. The sky-high licensing fees, sweeping product restrictions, and practical elimination of flower-based hemp products strongly mirror language and the intent of Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick's hemp THC ban that Governor Abbott already vetoed. Instead of an outright ban, the approach has shifted to something more subtle: price people out, regulate them out, or squeeze the industry until it collapses on its own. Raising a hemp manufacturer's license from $250 to $25,000 per facility and retail permits to $20,000 per location doesn't just regulate, it reshapes the market by force, favoring large players and eliminating small Texas businesses. That's not compromise, that's policy by proxy. Even with Teacup's expansion, a major barrier remains largely unspoken at the Capitol. Privacy and gun ownership issues. Veterans and other Texans regularly cite reluctance to enroll in the medical cannabis program because it creates a state-maintained registry tied to cannabis use. Whether those fears are legally justified or not, the perception matters, especially in a state where gun ownership is deeply cultural, not just political. For many, hemp-derived THC became the workaround, legal access without paperwork, registries, or the fear of unintended consequences. Until lawmakers acknowledge that reality, patient growth will always have a ceiling. Now, state leaders often frame hemp THC as a threat to medical cannabis. The numbers don't support that narrative. Teacup enrollment has steadily grown as hemp has exploded. The real problem wasn't competition, it was access. When the medical programs offered only ultra-low THC oil, limited doctors, and minimal availability, Texans found relief elsewhere. Hemp didn't steal patients, it served the patients that the state refused to. Texas doesn't actually have to choose between medical cannabis and hemp, or between medical cannabis and adult use. The most suitable, stable path forward is, in my opinion, is coexistence. Medical cannabis focused on patients who want physician oversight, insurance, capable care, higher dose consistency, and clinical legitimacy. a regulated adult use market that replaces what some call the hemp loophole with transparency, testing, age restrictions, and tax revenue, clear separation, not artificial scarcity between medical access and general consumer access. States that fight this reality spend years chasing unintended consequences. States that embrace it build safer markets faster. Texas lawmakers are closer than ever to functioning cannabis system, but they're also at risk of repeating the same mistake from a different angle. If the goal is public safety, patient care, and economic stability, then regulation must be proportional, transparent, and honest about demand. If the goal is control, fear, and moral signaling, the market will keep routing around the law just like it always has. It's 2026. Texas medical cannabis isn't asking permission to grow anymore. The question is whether lawmakers will finally stop trying to strangle it and everything around it. On the way up, I'm Stone Slade with the High at 9 News.
Oh, Stone Slade. Texas, bro. It's one big bowl of tumbleweed out there going on, Stone.
It's a big bowl of tumbleweed.
Man. And they say that you're looking a little pale today, and I hope it's not because of the story that you had to deliver.
Am I looking pale? Who said I was pale?
They said. That's what they said. Fundamentals.
Makes me look paler than I am too. Like don't worry about it.
Fundamentals 424 says you looks pale today. So I had to tell him. I said it's because you didn't get a chance to put on your foundation this morning.
You would need
my Trump foundation to get that nice orange glow.
Oh, bro, I'm gonna send you some. I'll send you some in the mail, Stone.
Oh God.
Man, this. I mean, I just wish Texas could get this thing together. Like they just need to just allow for their big old hemp program, allow for their big old THCA program, and just get with the program. If they want to expand teacup, then that's fine. But the reality is, even under teacup, Stone, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're still not allowing for flower to be sold through these teacup locations. And so you're not going to stop people. You know, that's 60 to 70% of the market, depending on what market you're in, is flower sales. And so you're not going to get people to stop doing what they're doing because you're saying that only in the legal way you can only use this and da-da-da-da. People don't care. America is built on outlaws. People need to understand that. That is the fundamental foundation of this country. Okay. And so telling people, hold on, Shaun, hold on. And so telling people that they can't do things because of your ideological views are just out of line with the whole foundations of which this country was founded on. Go ahead, Shaun.
I mean, I completely agree, but when are we defining this as outlaw and when are we defining it as petulance? Because there seems to be a double standard, and I want to get us to a place where it's a single standard. Texas, I think, would get so... Texas is primed to be something truly incredible. It already has the foundation for it.
Maybe
yes,
not.
It is a bit underdeveloped compared to other markets,
Maybe
marijuana
not.
markets specifically, that have been overregulated and are highly overdeveloped and still experiencing whatever bumps they're experiencing because that's business.
Mm-hmm.
Texas is primed to be something truly spectacular, but if this rulemaking session, so I got an update while we were on break that Supreme Court hearing, decision will not be expected for several months. So whatever rules Dishes makes now, they will be sued again, and probably the same pattern. And both of these will get the results of this hearing, and it'll determine what happens with this rulemaking for Dishes.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why it's so absurd, because it's like, we've all worked with that great startup that is truly has something incredible. And if they would just do the thing, it would explode, but they never do the damn thing. And they go in circles, like chasing their tails and trying to complicate how to get the thing done.
Mm-hmm.
And it just breaks your heart after you've seen it enough times. So I'm praying for you, Texas, because I really do believe in you. We have something truly incredible here. It is absolutely worth investment. We built it to 8 to 12 billion, and that is nothing to laugh at in 5 years. Congratulations, and keep fighting the good fight. You can still make those comments to Dishes through January 25th. You guys need to share your stories and share how this is already impacting you. Give them some ammunition for that legal case. Share how when they create a headline in the news, it harms your business and you are losing money and you are losing customers. And Dale, you tell us how we get those damages and figure out which claims we can make so we can explain it to the legislature very clearly in this rulemaking process. You're already hurting businesses, and it's nonsensical when we know in 7 months this is all going to still be up in the air.
It's all could be still up in the air.
My response is they don't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's at the heart of this, okay? Because the people with big money that we're not seeing are in their ear.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh yeah, I mean those permit fees alone.
They want to do this. They're not doing any better job than California did or New York. Okay, because
That's exactly what I thought.
Accomplished, we haven't got jack shit accomplished, and that's where we all object. It's like, why is this so hard? Well, because there's things in play here that no one wants to talk about. I mean, you saw Rand Paul drop a little bit of the dime here. It's like the people paying him money are the ones in their ear.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's how it works.
Who lied? That's what I was thinking. And obviously it's a money, money's at the heart of, all of this fun evil. But it's just listening to that article as you read it, Stone. Yeah, I was just listening to that thinking, man, so somebody decided to Californify, the whole what's going on in Texas right now, huh? Well, I mean, I wouldn't, but fuck me, I don't know if that's actually going to be the future barometer of how this all goes. It is heartbreaking. I realized that, and listening to that, Shaun also, kind of highlighted that fact. The small businesses, it's almost like, and I'm just going to throw it out there, the idea of like the microbrewery in our industry, because if you think about it, like what's all beer sales, it's going to be 90% something like Anheuser-Busch-esque stuff, right? Like that's going to be the crap water of, sorry to anybody who likes Budweiser, but that's the crap water of what's out there. And then you have the microbrew industry, and just like microbrews, couple hundred years into beer industry really flourishing, microbrews finally get to poke their heads out and say, hey, us too. I almost feel like microbrewery concept, which sucks because it's a lot of us who actually started the industry, but microbrewery concept is just too ahead of its time, which sucks. But I mean, do you have any other answers or reasons for the fact that we're just getting systemically pushed out? I mean, in California, we had what's going to end up being a wink of time for the everyman to get a try before they said, you know what? Yeah, we're just going to let everybody else in now. You guys, I guess, didn't flourish in this impossible situation quick enough. So, you're screwed. It's heartbreaking. Just sorry to go on, but it's heartbreaking.
You're right, Nate. And you referenced a really amazing website, that Everyman website. You know what I'm saying? It's all about equal pay. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Everyman's. And
it feels so anti-American though, because
what feels anti-American?
If it's anti-American to get that first cycle of people who actually create the industry and have the innovation and understand it, and were the early adopters who brought it into the mainstream, they will all get forced out. So the only people who will be left are a lot
Have you ever seen the McDonald's movie, Shaun?
No, I didn't. With Michael Keaton?
The McDonald's movie of how McDonald's started, of how like
is it with Michael?
I don't know. I think so.
Well, he's my favorite Batman, so I'll watch anything with Michael Keaton.
Okay, well, I have no clue who the hell's in the movie, but the the premise is McDonald's started, okay, and it really started with milkshakes, okay, with milkshakes, and there was these guys that had this proprietary milkshake machine and and then he partnered with these other guys, and they built McDonald's, right? And then these other guys started doing all these different deals, all these real estate deals, and didn't include the milkshake guys. And then ultimately, the milkshake guys got totally pushed out of McDonald's, Shaun. And look at McDonald's now. So this is classic 101. This happens all the time. This is not exclusive to cannabis at all whatsoever.
Yeah, it's not exclusive to cannabis, and the milkshake dude signed a deal. We're talking about eliminating a whole category of mom and pops craft operators.
No, it's the exact same thing, Shaun. It's the exact same freaking thing, Shaun. There is no difference between it. Right, and shout out to OG Grandma in the chat who says, contribute to dishes, and he wants to know how about pots and pans. And on that, we're going to roll.
Contribute your testimony and comments up until January 25th. Thank you.
All right. And on that, we're going to roll into our final commercial, and we're going to be right back.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, you know? And I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you know you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Test it. It's not a name, it's a promise.
So,
We are back, and we are going to roll right into Mr. Nate Winokur. He's the founder of a lab that was unjustly persecuted in the communist state of California and was forced to give up his license. And now he focuses on teaching cannabis patients and the community the nuances of testing with his new online platform called Teaching Bud. And you can find him on YouTube and on other streaming platforms everywhere. And you can get a nice education with none other than Mr. Nate Winokur of Teaching Bud.
appreciate the fun introduction, my friend. I hope all is well with you and everybody else watching. Today is a story out of New York. I might butcher her last name. Jason, how do you pronounce the governor's last name there?
Hochul.
Hochul. Thank you.
Yeah.
Headline is out of the New York Post. Hey, I don't want to butcher anyone's last name, and I know I'm going to say it quite a few times in a minute.
No,
So
Hochul,
it's,
Hochul.
Hochul. Okay,
Yes, Hochul.
It's Hochul.
Nate.
Hochul.
Yes.
Hochul. Okay, I see it right now, and I'm not going to deviate. So,
Jason, that was pretty funny.
all right, I just walked out into that one. I think I discussed it
That
about
was
after
great.
his like third or fourth guffaw. So yeah, no, I'm with you guys now. Hochul wants to open medical marijuana center, but critics say plan is half-baked. Let me start by covering this fun medical marijuana article. New York's health system may soon go up in smoke. Governor Kathy Hochul wants to open the nation's first medical center for cannabis care that will offer residencies for medics in training wanting to pair their Hippocratic oaths with hydroponic tokes, it says. Hochul claims her proposed Center for Excellence for Cannabis Care and Health Equity will boost access to medical marijuana in minority communities, but critics blasted the plan as half-baked. Kathy Hochul must be high if she thinks taxpayers want a center for cannabis excellence. While schools are failing, streets are unsafe, and families can't afford New York, said Bruce Blakesman, a Nassau County and Republican hopeful looking to take on Hochul in the November governor's election. Hochul did not provide specifics on how the center would address alleged racial disparities in medical marijuana care as she touted the program in her 2026 policy book that was unveiled alongside her State of the State speech on Tuesday. Black and brown neighborhoods in New York tend to have more recreational cannabis dispensaries and fewer medical cannabis dispensaries and pathways to clinical care than other neighborhoods, the policy book said. Developed with medical schools and residency programs, the center will train clinicians on cannabis pharmacology, evidence-based care, and patient counseling, topics that are rarely covered in traditional medical education, so providers beyond medical dispensaries are equipped to counsel prospective medical cannabis patients and manage ongoing care. The center may even award state-issued licenses to doctors and nurses trained in medical marijuana treatment, Hochul's spokesperson confirmed to the Post. It's all on the table. It's being explored, the spokesperson said. We're in communication with medical schools to create a model for this program. The proposals from the Democratic governor come on the heels of a bombshell 2025 scientific study led by UCLA researchers that found there was insufficient evidence to back up most of the supposed benefits of medical marijuana. The study found little evidence that medical marijuana worked to treat acute pain or conditions like PTSD and rheumatoid arthritis. The researchers did find that high-potency cannabis users were more prone to psychotic symptoms and generalized anxiety disorder. But critics of the legal pot rollout in the Empire State has been a real downer. Probably won't help. Ever since the irresponsible rollout of legal weed in New York, people are self-medicating with cannabis even while they're driving. You can smell it every day, said State Senator George Borrello, Republican of Jamestown. Now, there are more than 550 dispensaries in the state now, but the rollout over the last 3 years has been marred by bureaucratic bungling and litigation over regulators misapplying the law. The Office of Cannabis Management admitted it goofed in establishing the criteria for a buffer zones from schools between licensed cannabis stores. New York first legalized cannabis for medicinal use, for medicinal purposes a decade ago. Patients receive a doctor's prescription to use cannabis to ease chronic pain and to treat a host of illnesses. But the number of medical dispensaries plummeted after the state legalized cannabis for recreational use. Advocates and merchants said medicinal cannabis patients got lost in the shuffle and agreed to that having more medical professionals with expertise to treat them would help. We are encouraged, quote, we are encouraged that Governor Hochul is taking steps to rebuild New York's medical cannabis program, which has been steadily eroding due to persistent disinvestment and is in desperate need of help, the New York Medical Cannabis Industry Association said in a statement. Proposals to build participation in the program by working with educational institutions to better inform healthcare practitioners and thereby reach more patients is welcome, but there's much to do. The group called for scrapping the medical cannabis tax, a levy that is imposed on no other medicine in the state. A licensed marijuana merchant applauded the governor's initiative. Having a cannabis care center is a great idea. There's a lack of access for medicinal cannabis patients, said Osbert Orduna, CEO of the Cannabis Place in Middle Village, Queens. So this is an interesting article, reading it as somebody that's from the inside of the cannabis industry. There's a lot to unpack here. I mean, we're kind of almost too obviously looking at a level of tone deafness from the writer of the article, as well as a level of tone deafness on what is being written about and the people's understanding that they're writing about, which in itself is tone deaf. It reeks of there not being people who have largely experienced and worked through these things in the past in terms of reading it, and the opportunities that creates to create I feel like more damning points rather than constructive points leaves it all too open to have viewed or read or listened to what I just covered right there. So just to unpack this for just a quick minute, there are definite needs to being able to highlight medical cannabis, but that doesn't necessarily come at a level of doubt or inference in terms of what is being done with helping out those people who are in need. Simply spoken, it is easier as a person who probably could go out and regularly maintain a medical cannabis prescription for myself. There are numerous loopholes, even here in California, where there are benefits such as the tax being waived. And it is not a simple program to be able to go through. The ability to cast light on this kind of thing and to be able to help out people with certain things like tax breaks on cannabis would be huge. And that's pretty well defined, I think. Everybody else has their experiences with this and might be able to kind of weigh on that last point too. What else I see going on here is a notion of being able to work with people and institutions in the guise of it being a medical cannabis service. Generally speaking, people who are in need of versions of self-medicating with cannabis and people who would benefit from going to an institution to be able to consume cannabis in proper ways and to be able to get a level of advice and understanding behind it are two very different crowds of people. And the notion that we would be taking them and mashing them together seems, again, very tone deaf in terms of knowing these people and understanding it. I work with numerous families. I have the fortune of working with numerous families who have children who are cannabis patients who have severe forms of epilepsy. This is serious stuff, and these people absolutely need places to go. They absolutely need the ability to discount their meds and to actually have a place that would be somewhat stationary or even semi-permanent would be a dream come true to those kind of people. There are other versions of this, again, where I happen to know people who, Jason, you yourself are capable. I'm sure if you don't have a medical card specifically, I'm sure you, like me, but in so many other fun ways, would be able to say you're deserving of one. Now, to be able to mix and mar that with the need to go to a center or to say that you're missing something that you could otherwise be having is totally missing the mark, right? So I want to just kind of point out what this article says and how it might feel to somebody within the industry. And I think it actually kind of enriches what we might be able to talk about here because Shaun, Dale, what do you guys think? I'm very curious to see what your guys' personal experiences would have you say about what I just read.
Well, I've actually been through medical education. Molly, when Molly and I got married, she just finished medical school. And I know a number of physicians, and none of them really has an adequate didactic educational basis for understanding cannabis, cannabinoids, the endocannabinoid system. So to that extent, that I believe is something that would be better off if it was addressed by the medical boards inside each state, because they all have laws about what it is you have to have learned before we will give you a license. And I would like to see it be there. My experience here in California with the medical board is these guys are very conservative. They don't like to do anything unless somebody forces them to, and they want to control physicians. So that turns out to be a realistic problem. And if you've ever been through neurobiology or neurophysiology at the medical school level and seen those lectures, there's nothing taught about the endocannabinoid system. The endo-opioid system is taught, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. All these are taught, but it's like we can't talk about cannabis and what it's doing. I think that fundamentally is a problem for physicians who want to have the updated information about this. And another problem that we just don't know quite what to do with yet is this is not a single molecule medicinal treatment. Okay? And the closest I can come to is opium. Within opium, there's morphine, codeine, thebaine, and a bunch of others. And within cannabis, it's THC, CBD, CBG, there's a whole bunch of them. And then there's the terpenes. And I love the entourage effect. But when you're trying to teach someone who is stuck in a system that is single molecule pharmaceutical driven, it becomes difficult because it doesn't fit their model. And I know a lot of physicians who smoke pot and they understand what it does. But when it comes to the bigger picture of how do we apply it, they don't know quite what to do because their license still are threatened if you get too far out there. And that really is a concern to me because physicians, it's not that hard to understand. You can go back and look at the national formularies and how they use this back in the 1800s. And our brain is a Paleolithic. It hasn't changed in 50,000 years. The plant certainly hasn't changed. And what they were observed did hasn't changed a bit. So there's ways to find out about this. And like you, Nate, Molly and I had thousands of patients that you bring a little kid in status epilepticus or something like that, and you find that CBD breaks it. Okay. And the parents are like, God, what can I do? Can I, I never had any other way to treat this. It's a lifesaver for patients. That needs to be promoted. But a single medical center, it seems a bit performative to me. I would rather see this be in each physician's office where the physician, PAs, and the nurses understand what we're doing here, because a lot of people are using this. And when you sit down and talk to them, most people I know are reluctant to tell their doctors what they do. Okay, it's just there's still that reluctance. And in California, I know that we have a problem with the Kaiser Permanente system.
Yep.
Because if you want to get opioids or pain treatment, they're going to drug test you because they won't prescribe you if you're using weed. And it's like, we have a state law here that says you can't do that, but they do it anyway. And this is one of the biggest health systems in the entire nation. So this is very complicated, and for me, it's very frustrating because I've been smoking pot since 1971 before I was trained in medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Molly too. And we know a lot of people who have practical experience, but there's a dearth of actual didactic lessons in this. You don't get, exchange amongst treating physicians. There's no requirement for continuing medical education that you take these courses. So I would prefer to have that approach, because the medical part of this has been lost to the recreational part.
Mm-hmm.
That's unfortunate, because if you've ever had a patient that this is the only thing that works and they just can't get it and it's too expensive and it's a problem, your heart just breaks for these people. It shouldn't be like that.
This is my thing. First of all, Dale, I don't understand. This article didn't reference how they were going to pay for this. Okay, New York is already, on the fringe of financial ruin, especially with a communist dictator in place as their mayor currently. You know what I mean? But then also,
Trump signed off on that guy.
Trump did not. Trump did not sign off on Mondami. No, you were so confused about that. That is total optics, Shaun. That is total gaslighting right there.
That's what he said. What do you mean gaslighting? I saw the clip.
Trump signed off on the will of the voters for New York to get what has coming to them. Okay, and that is what they're going to get. Okay, but however, I do. This is what I do on a regular basis, Shaun. So trust me, and you're talking to the person that speaks fluent Trump. Okay, all right,
I'm pushing your buttons.
All right. So in regards
to diagnosable condition, Shaun.
Yeah, it's I got red pills for everybody. If you guys want some red pills, just hit me up.
I'm trying to joke. I'm trying to
just pop them. Pop red pill. Yeah.
You were gonna say.
So New
York doesn't have the money.
New York doesn't have the money. I would really like to see a program like this, though, Dale, partner with one of the medical universities, to educate doctors on the whole endocannabinoid system and do some type of research and trials to actually teach doctors more about this and require some type of further ongoing training for doctors that have to take secondary courses after they've already been licensed. Now, that would make sense, but how this is being presented by Governor Hochul is total BS.
Yeah.
Schools and medical centers, that's where this belongs. Existing schools and medical centers that are already equipped to be able to take this in.
Mm-hmm.
And this is beyond the logical point where you'd be able to build a standard operating procedure, an SOP for everybody to follow, to be able to assess and hopefully to, ultimately, diagnose a which would be or come up with
You
an
wouldn't be
appropriate prognosis for each patient.
you wouldn't be diagnosing people with anything. People would already come there pre-diagnosed.
I
and then
switched it up to a prognosis and to come up with an appropriate one for each patient.
But they're
diagnosis,
not. They don't need to come up with it with an SOP because all medicine is all trial by error. I've been overdosed on by pharmaceutical drugs from doctors telling me that I should take this, and that's why they call it a medical practice. So they don't need to have a standardized SOP, Nate. You know what I'm saying? They just need to practice it and do some trial by error, because the reality of it is that this is the most unlethal substance that these doctors will prescribe to anybody in their entire medical career. So there's no harm, no foul. If worst case scenario, the person takes a longer nap.
The exercise between the two of you kind of illustrates what's at play here, though, is that there's a lot of good thinking or ideating going on, and it seems that someone's idea might have someone else invested. Perhaps this is purely speculative, but my hunch would be real estate, because we're talking about a center. Like, we could have done this instantly when I wanted to hear the good news when you had the article, Nate, and instead I was hearing all the red flags, and I was like, whoa. A state-run program, a center, state-sponsored-ish. It starts making me itch. And then we're talking about a center, physical location, which I can appreciate, but the real estate, there's money involved there. And whose idea was this? And why does it have to be this big center? It gives me, slow down, PFC. We gotta crawl before we walk, and walk before we run. You know what I mean?
I have the best idea.
And it was kind of funny that you said Hochul, because
exactly. See, that's why that's our name.
We gotta pump the brakes on it. It seems like a very good idea, but when we think about good ideas, we have to make sure that they're executable. And you can't start off with the big, huge, let's open a center idea. You need to go slow, man. Fix what's broken right now, because you have a lot of other issues. And until you fix your adult use market and other problems, your medical market will continue to kind of cripple, because they work all together in tandem. It's one industry.
This is
three
the thing.
Different channels.
This is the other thing about this, you guys. And I think this would be the best idea and the best, because, President Trump already owns the issue of cannabis now. He totally ripped that and peeled it from the Democrats as a thing. And then and he does have buildings in New York. He is a real estate mogul in New York City. And so I think we need to open up the Trump Tower Center for Medical Cannabis Treatment.
Wait, now you're for this policy? Now you're for it.
If you know what? Well, you said that there has to be some money involved. I mean, we know Trump got the money and Trump got the real estate in New York to actually implement it. So maybe there's a private-public partnership that Trump could engage with the state of New York to implement this policy, and then it would be bipartisan. It'd be a bipartisan treatment center for cannabis.
He wants to do D2C through
It'd be
Trump
so
RX.
great. It'd be so great. It'd be so great.
It'd be so great.
It'd be so great.
To illustrate your point, though, the other red flag, I was like, when I was hearing this article, and let's keep in mind it's New York Post, so sometimes they have a slant.
No, they don't.
But regardless, you're right about the Republicans and the Democrats needing to understand the nuance of this issue, because they are going to use this to do exactly what I just pointed out, which was, this sounds like a state-sponsored, state-run, way too intimately state-run program.
You're telling me it sounds like a Minnesota daycare center? Is that what you're hearing?
No. Don't do that.
Okay.
Especially not right now. But it's too sensitive. I'm from Texas and Minnesota. I don't want to talk about those issues. We're talking about these issues. But New York, the Republicans are going to say you've already failed in so many different ways with the current policy that you have when it comes to predominantly blue run marijuana states, and how it's actually affected businesses, how it's created some illicit markets due to certain overregulation. And then they're always going to point out to follow the money, because everybody likes to say that on both sides of the aisle, right? So I do think these kinds of big ideas that the Democrats often propose,
it's a towering idea.
They scaled it down to a more executable level and actually got on the grassroots and understood before they signed off on some fancy idea from some guy in a suit who says he represents the people. Okay.
All the people.
Then they might have a better shot. But the more that they keep listening to suits who say they represent the people and aren't actually on the ground, the more they're going to come up with these policies that Republicans are just going to run with it, and they're going to end up owning this issue.
They already do.
Jason, you're right on that.
They already own the issue. They are
way ahead on the issue for sure.
Even Dale will admit Republicans own the issue now. You know what I mean? You know.
Hey, I all my Democratic friends is like, well, you guys are dithering and whacking your peepees.
Yep.
They ran off with the issue, and it's irritating. It really is irritating to me because all these ideas, don't get shit accomplished, and that's you got to actually get over the finish line with stuff. And in the medical profession, if there isn't a source of payment, it's not going to happen. And that's I think the problem, because they don't pay for weed through insurance. It just ain't happening yet. And until it does, you're on your own.
Yeah. Great story, Nate. And I think they should call these high ideas, Dale. You know what I'm saying? Going forward,
Okay.
But nonetheless, I have one final story. And I think this is good news. I think we're going to end the show on some good news today. So I'll let you guys be the judge. But a Missouri lawmaker proposes an amendment to overhaul the marijuana laws in Missouri. That's right. A Missouri lawmaker has filed a proposed amendment to the state's constitution that would repeal current marijuana laws and replace them with one of the least, I said least, not yeast, restrictive systems in the country, getting rid of possession limits, expanding home grow rights, and adding additional protections. House Joint Resolution 106, filed by State Representative Matthew Overcast, Republican from Douglas County, would roll back parts of Missouri's constitution and overhaul it with 18 new sections that cover both marijuana and hemp. And since this proposal would amend the Missouri Constitution, it would need approval from both lawmakers and voters before it could be in place. The changes would fundamentally reshape how the state regulates cannabis by putting personal use rights and market standards directly into its constitution. If passed, adults 21 and older would be allowed to possess, use, and grow marijuana and hemp without limits imposed by the state on how much they could buy or have at one time. The new measure also outright prevents Missouri from listing marijuana or hemp as state-controlled substances. The General Assembly would also face new restrictions on its ability to criminalize activities related to these plants, and the proposal would also restructure Missouri's medical marijuana program. Anyone 18 and up that qualifies for a medical need could get ID cards valid for 5 years with options for 10 years or lifetime cards. How about that? And cards for minors would be given only to their parents or guardians. The changes would also allow lawmakers to authorize self-certification for medical marijuana cards, and should they choose to do that, it means that eligible patients would be able to advocate for themselves on their application rather than needing a doctor's recommendation or documentation. When it comes to the growing side of the proposed changes, restrictions would also be loosened for both medical and adult use consumers, and the amendment would allow people to grow a total of 30 cannabis plants, flowering plants 10, taller than non-flowering plants 10, and clones 10, and growing would also not be limited to a home or residence, and multiple people could share a single enclosed locked cultivation area. Aside from access and growth, the proposal adds a variety of legal protections. As long as you are following the state's rules for marijuana or hemp, you would be legally safe in the state of Missouri, meaning the government and the police would not be able to, 1, take your property, such as your car, cash, or equipment, just because it was involved in your legal marijuana activities. Legal use would no longer be considered a reason for parole violations, and 3, arrest you or file criminal charges against you, and 4, or give you a civil penalty like a ticket or a fine. And there would also be workplace protections would also be included in this big overhaul, and employers would no longer be allowed to discriminate against employees for using cannabis or hemp lawfully outside of work. It is important to note, however, that employers would still be able to prohibit it during work hours or on work grounds and take action if it if its use were to lead to impairment that impacts job performance or safety. Another important change the amendment would require is expungement of certain nonviolent marijuana and hemp-related offenses committed before August 28th of 2027. Not counting cases where minors or driving under the influence were involved, it would create a release program for people who are currently in jail for eligible offenses, with those people expected to be freed by no later than 2030. The resolution received its second reading in the House last week, and no hearing has been scheduled yet. And if approved by lawmakers, the measure would appear on the November 2026 ballot or at a special election called by the governor, you guys. Well, and just another reason why Missouri just happens to be the best market in the entire nation, in my opinion. And I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this great news today. Happy
It sounds
Thursday.
like they've been watching all the screw-ups in every other state.
Yep.
And they're trying to get around it.
Yep.
And good for
Missouri,
them.
Missouri is going to be the model market for the country.
They are doing great. They have great people out there. John Bond with Alyssa, they and Jason, you told me they were both in medical and regulated market. And on the last story with Nate, they were the first thought that came to mind when I was like, whoa, can we slow this down? And if I was going to bring players in, what kind of players would I bring in?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be exclusive medical operators. It'd be people like John Bond, who's worked on the West Coast, did the Dutchy thing, went home to Missouri, and then they have such a great program. Like I'm thank God someone filed this, because now I'm going to take it and borrow from it and try to put what I can into my recommendations down here.
Oh yeah.
This is good news. Thank you, Jason. We needed that one.
This was so clearly written by cannabis people. Like, before you even saying that, Shaun, like that was what I was thinking the whole time is, wow, this whole thing sounds like it's been written by cannabis people who have been through the governmental ringer, and come out the other side saying, wow, something like this really needs to happen. And
you know who it was written by, Nate? You know who it was written by?
What's that?
You know who it was written by?
I mean, it sounds like a cannabis person, but what were you going to say?
It was written by Republicans.
Yeah.
I mean, can we have, sensibility and logic be a bipartisan agreement?
No, no. The Democrats won't allow for that because they're too out of their minds right now.
Send it on over who wrote that. I definitely want to use them as a reference. Thank you. There are Republicans who understand this hurts small people, and they hate that. There are Republicans who are still confused about what it is to be a Republican right now. It's up in the air as much as it is what is a Democrat. So I'm not at all surprised, and good on them, because it takes too long for the other side to get organized. Well, how much support then, if it was brought forward by Republicans? My question is, how much support will it actually have then?
It will have major support in Missouri. In Missouri, it's going to have a lot of support. You know what I'm saying? And shout out to State Representative Matthew Overcast, a Republican from Douglas County. You know what I'm saying? What a great last name, Overcast.
And put all over the country. And honestly, Jason, I know it's easy to make things into political issues, but I couldn't put a damn out there who pushes the idea forward.
I know you don't.
Really?
I know you don't care. I care though, but I know you don't. I know you are one of those people, Nate, that just wants to see the right thing done, and this happens to be the right thing done, and it just so happens that it's being done by the right.
Spoken directly, man. I appreciate that.
Yep. And we love
I
it.
agree
We're here for it.
wholeheartedly with Nate.
This is fantastic. I'm so excited. This is just another example, Dale. Republicans taking the issue, ripping it right out of the Democrats, and showing them what should have been done the first time.
What dithering does.
Yep, it is all this pandering and whatnot. And on that, we want to thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. And big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on, and thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. And thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. And thank you to Cloud Media partners Elias and Gabriel. They're somewhere in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show. And we're off, you guys.